but I haven't introduced myself. I apologize. My name is Danielle LaFontaine. I'm your Director of Marketing here at Chet Holmes International, the sponsor for today's event. I will be your moderator for this final session in this series we launched back in November, actually, about sales process improvement. Today's session is called The 7 Musts of Executing a Record-Breaking Sales Plan in 2014, and I know that's why you're all here, so let's get moving. A couple of quick notes before we get going. All callers are on mute to make sure the listening experience is excellent and crystal clear. If you have questions during the presentation, please submit them to me via the chat feature or raise your hand in your control panel. If your question is for Gene, I'll compile them, and if we can get to all the questions after the presentation, we will. Otherwise, we'll make sure someone follows up with you directly to answer your questions. We know your time is valuable, and that's why this is built as a working session. Again, you can access the workbook for today's webinar right now from your chat section in your webinar control panel. Go ahead and copy paste it into your browser. You can either fill it in on the computer or you can print it and fill it in by hand. Our presenter today is noted sales authority Gene McNaughton. He's actually the president of CHI's consulting division, where he has built record-breaking sales and marketing programs for companies all over the world. He's a 25-year veteran executive business leader and consultant, as well as an accomplished public speaker and presenter. And today, Gene will share with you how to execute your sales plan to have a record-breaking year. So thank you, Gene, for taking the time to join us today. And if you're ready to go, I'll go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. Hey, listen, everybody. First of all, congratulations for being here, and welcome to the 7 months of executing a record-breaking sales plan for this year. So, by you being here, it says a lot about you, that you're not just sitting on the fence, that, you're not using hopes and dreams to build your sales strategy. The fact that you're here on this call says that you're looking for more and you want to find the best tools and resources to help build out your plan. I mean, that's what it's all about. And the timing for this webinar is so great because we're kicking off a year that, has a lot of uncertainty in it in terms of the economy. While we've seen some blips, little ups and some little downs, I'm going to show you what the research shows in terms of this quote-unquote recovery. And it's not such great news in terms of economic recovery, but more importantly, what it says is, people that are on this call, business owners like you, that are committing to saying, look, I don't care about the economy. I know that I can outmarket, I can outsell, I can outplan, I can out-strategize my competition, whether it's locally, nationally, regionally. At the end of the day, what we see in recessive times and economic fruitful times, the organizations have the best planning, execution, marketing, and sales strategies always survive. That's what today is all about. Now, a couple notes to get the most out of this session. As Danielle said, there's a workbook that's been created. A ton of work goes into these to give you even more value. So if you got that workbook printed, take notes. I'm going to cover a lot of ground today. And as we were building out this educational briefing, each of the musts that I lay out, I'm like, heck, that by itself could be its own 1-hour educational briefing, because it's the same stuff that we teach the companies that we help grow, whether you're a one-man or one-woman shop or you're an army of 1,000. The fundamentals of sales and marketing growth, of revenue and acceleration really don't change. That's what I'm going to expose you to today. But I'm going to cover a lot of ground in just 45 minutes, so I'm respectful of your time. The best way to get the most out of this, write notes in your workbook, write notes on a piece of paper so you capture all of this. Of course, there's a recording you can get to afterwards, but if you're here, why don't you make the commitment right now to get the absolute most out of the next 45 minutes? Not just getting some content, but get from it. See where this could mold and shift and help you take accelerated action right now as you walk out of this webinar in the next hour to accelerate and ignite your sales and marketing organizations. So a couple notes before we start. As I said, I'm going to cover a ton of ground, so please, if I go too fast, just know that there's either going to be more educational briefings down the road, or it's just I could not get every bit of content in a 45-minute session. This is part 3 of the 3-part series. So part 1 and 2, the recordings are all available to you on chetholmes.com. If you haven't had a chance to listen to those, I highly recommend you do it. Bring in your management team, bring in your leadership team, bring in your sales team. All of them are action-packed and highly filled with valuable content. Now, we're going to spend a few minutes today reviewing our insights from the original educational briefings. And, the reality is, what is our ultimate outcome? Well, at the end of the day is we designed this webinar series, and all that we're going to do through 2014 and beyond is to do exactly what we teach companies to do, which is to be looked at as the educational authority in their marketplace. The company that's giving more to their database, that's attracting more prospects, not just to try to sell them something. Let's face it, at the end of the day, our ultimate outcome is to provide value and sell something to people, but you attract far more people by stepping up and being the educational thought leader, by giving value. That's what this is all about. And as I said earlier, we're holding nothing back on these trainings. Now, granted, our clients get a lot more attention and so forth, but I'm laying out the same tools and strategies we use with our Fortune 500 clients and our $1 million, $500,000, $100,000 clients. The processes don't change. But the bigger question I have for all of you is this: are you doing this? Are you serving as that educational thought leader in your marketplace? That's in what your marketing collateral looks like. It's your website. It's how you show up or your salespeople show up. There's a heck of a big difference between trying to sell somebody something versus trying to teach them how to be a smart and better buyer of your products and services. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. I'm also going to show you what the research says. So it's not just our hyperbole in what we see. It's backed by foundational research that we've had an independent research firm, Empire Research Group, do the studies on what's happening with small, medium, and large businesses 2012, 2013, and what 2014 looks like. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to give everybody a free tool. When I say free tool, I mean literally a no-charge tool for some sales training. Now, we built a new program that just launched in November, and you can go get access to this 14-day free trial. There's no strings attached. There's no credit card you have to put in. We want you to get some of the training that we're teaching our clients. So write this down. I'll tell you all about it at the end, but it's theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com. theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com. So I'll tell you all about it later, but ultimately, free resource for all of you. Our ultimate outcome today, and you see a picture of Chet, is simple. As he always stated, the premise of Chet Holmes International is that we will always attract far more clients by offering to teach them something of value to them than we'll ever get by trying to sell them something. So I go back to thinking about the structure of how your marketing messages work, what your website says, what those salespeople of yours say, or what you say when you're out meeting somebody for the first time. Are you just trying to close the deal? Are you spewing out the facts and the features about your products and the kind of the irrelevant things that people can find online? Or are you using more of a strategic approach that we teach, that Chet Holmes has been teaching for over 20 years and has been doubling the sales of more companies than anybody, and that's been recorded at least? So that's what we're doing today on these briefings. Now, a couple little pieces of data. As I said, not all of this is motivational data, but we have to look at the facts and the realities that there is no indication that we're going to see this big economic lift in 2014 or in 2015. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of ups with the housing prices, but if you look at some of the changes in the rules, we're going to see a little bit of a drop in housing prices. That's what's predicted. Interest rates are going to continue to rise. We're not seeing any massive shifts in unemployment. They're making some progress, but there's more to this lesson than just looking at the graphs. When the survey, and this was done by the NFIB, you notice all of the details are cited here, the Small Business Economic Trends in 2013. When asking companies what is it that's impacting their net revenues and earnings, 4 things came to mind. Number 1, lower sales volume. Now, I would argue that even in your marketplace, if the pie has shrunk slightly, that there's still room for you to go out and take a bigger piece of a smaller pie. Now, you do that, granted, yes, you got to have competing products, you got to have competing service, you got to have a reputable company, but you do that by having a superior sales and marketing system. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but the statement by itself. But executing that is where the challenge is. But if you look at what's affecting most companies, and maybe this is affecting you too, I don't know at this point because I don't know you, but what were driving their earnings going lower? Lower sales volume, right? Increased costs. I think that's going to affect all of us. Doesn't matter what business you're in, especially with the Affordable Care Act. Selling prices getting cut. And what that tells me, when we see selling prices getting cut, is that more and more, especially in the B2B space, more and more purchasing agents are working to take everything to a bid, to an RFP. And what their job is to make you look just like everybody else, all of your competitors, pull you into a bid or an RFP, and then throw it up for a jump ball to see who's going to give the lowest price. So I don't know if you're in the B2B market or not, but that's what I see in every organization we work with. Now, while we recognize that's an ongoing trend, it's not like it's brand new. That's been happening for the last 15 years. It's just becoming more and more frequent. However, what's less and less frequent is having an organization, a marketing group, and a sales group that is able to have a partnership conversation that doesn't necessarily boil down to the jump ball and who's the lowest price, but when you position yourself as a partner to your firms, where you're adding value, not just in price, quality, and service, but in helping them make more profit, helping that company reduce their time to serve their clients, helping that company reduce their risk. It's an entirely different conversation than trying to get into a purchasing agent and get into a price war. All of that, my friends, is about sales strategy, marketing strategy, which we're going to talk about today. Let's keep moving. So our areas covered for today, we're going to review, as I have in every call. I love this from Steve Jobs, and hopefully you do too, the 3 mandates of effective leadership. Secondly, this great saying that Chet always talked to, especially the smaller and mid-sized businesses we worked with, said, look, you don't have to be a big company to act like a big company. And more importantly, the whole premise of that is this. If you want to be a big company, you've got to start acting like a big company acts now. That will get you there faster. And that's everything we're going to lay out today. So we want to understand the key planning models of Fortune 500 companies. We also want to talk about maximizing our marketing and sales strategies. You can hear me talk about this over and over again because we know that it's true. And I also want to expose you to the 3 most overlooked fundamentals, along with mastering the power of metrics. Another element that every organization I go into as a consultant and our team goes into is making sure that we're able to manage what it is we want to see grow. And the only way you can manage something is you've got to be able to measure it. I'm going to show you a very easy technique that all of you can use regardless of the size of your company. And then lastly, we're going to talk most importantly about, and probably the most important thing I'll cover, is how to build industry-dominating strength in your sales process. Not willy-nilly, not hope and dreams, not just trying to hire people that have prior sales experience, but really putting together a system for if you've got 2 reps or 2,000 reps that everybody follows and you can have the right measurement system around it to optimize and maximize your revenue. Let's keep moving. Steve Jobs says it best. Love this. It's in his movie. It's in his book. His 3 mandates of leadership. Number 1, look at your business as it really is. Don't BS yourself. You hear me talk a lot about the importance of having an audit done on your sales and marketing process. Many of you do this in your accounting work. Many of you do this on your P&Ls. You have a third party come in and look at them to spot holes and find areas for you to maximize tax benefits. Very few organizations do this in their sales and marketing process. However, it's one of the most needed elements of most companies that we go to work with. But as Steve Jobs says it, look at your business as it really is. Number 2, define what it is you want it to be. See it better than it is first. Well, heard the great saying, without a vision we shall perish. And knowing the clarity of where you want your business to go is power. And you don't stop there. You make that plan, and then you execute. So let's dive into the 7 months of creating a record-breaking year. Follows the same premise that Steve Jobs talks about, Bill Gates talks about, Warren Buffett talks about some of these things. Jim Collins from Good to Great. I mean, you start to see these patterns of these thought leaders in business growth, and it becomes very apparent. So, I'll also preface this by, a lot of what I'm going to show you today is things that you may intuitively know. You may look at it and say, okay, Gene, that totally makes sense. We already do that. And I'll tell you the same thing I tell our clients is that there very, very rarely is there a silver bullet that's going to accelerate everything in your business. How business acceleration and growth takes place is the execution of the fundamentals. Like these 7 steps I'm going to give you, these 7 musts, they have to be executed with absolute conviction and certainty, and it all starts and ends with you. And how does it start? You got to get clear on what it is you want to do. I mean, great companies know well in advance exactly what they're going to create well in advance, who they're going after, what their core products and services are, what their visions are. That's laid out with all great companies. Great companies have their financial forecasts mapped out. They have their sales process mapped out from lead to conversion, expertly laid out. Great companies rigorously focus on training and execution excellence in delivering a razor-sharp experience for their employees, and thus, when you do that with your employees, that's how they follow suit in treating your prospects and your clients. And great organizations relentlessly measure, right? I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. And they apply the power of optimization. So here's what your planning checklist looks like. Now write this down. Hey, do you have your written sales and profit goals for 2014? What are you going to do this year? Now you can look at historics, look at the last 2 years, apply your growth curve to that, but lay it out in advance and make sure that you have, if you have a management team, that they're bought into the numbers. And do you have compensation structures that match up to support this growth? I find that many organizations, while they know they need to do this, they don't step up and do it. Sometimes that's why they have coaches. That's why they have consultants to come in and do this stuff for them. And then after you have your numbers written out, do you have written goals and plans for communicating these performance expectations? And more importantly, do you have your regular planned meetings with your senior team? And if you're a really small business, with your accountant, your bookkeeper, to say, okay, am I making progress towards what it is I want to do? So in bigger organizations, I recommend you're doing these performance reviews or these numbers reviews as frequently as possible. You know, the old saying goes, if you measure once a month, you can have a bad month and not even know it. If you measure once a week, you can have a bad week and not even know it. But if you measure daily, you can course correct in a really fast way. So here's the financial checklist, as I call it, very basic. Your revenue target, your profit target, your expense target, your net profit target, making on-time tax payments. I had too many businesses call me that waited till the end and now they owe a chunk of money. And then what is your percentage profit to revenue? Right? Basic, 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 but you've got to execute on the basics. Must number 2, I'm a huge fan of this. I hope you are too. If you haven't done this, step up. Conduct an audit on your business. And here's how basically it works. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you are, it's impossible to improve anything. So absolute clarity about your current situation will reveal exactly what it is you need to shift. Now, the key is, as you do this, likely with accounting, with your tax planning and so forth, maybe your financial planner, why wouldn't you do this with a business growth expert? Invest a little money and have somebody come in and say, how are we doing versus best practice? Prospecting, marketing, lead gen, lead conversion, upsell, cross-sell, metrics, management, comp structures. That's what an audit will do for you. And as I always say, and I love this saying I learned from a guy named Tom Searcy, one of the best business growth guys I've ever met, along with Chet. He says, look, you are designed to achieve exactly what you're getting. And I'm saying that to all of you on this call. So if you're happy with your results, good. If you want more results, find out what it is you need to improve on or get even better at. That's how you're going to improve your results. If you're not happy with your results, same exact process applies, because the truth will always set you free. The challenge that many businesses fall into is they become victims of their own BS. That stands for belief systems, where maybe they become the person that's guarding what's possible in the business because we tried that and it didn't work, or we used to do that and we quit because our expert at doing it left the company. Or we've been doing it this way over and over again, and we just want to keep doing more of that. I mean, there's so many limiting beliefs that we walk into. At the end of the day, a black and white business audit that's right there on paper and says, here's how you do it, here's best practice. If you want to change and create best practice, here's what your patterns and your sequences and your training needs to be. So one great example of an audit, this is something all of you can do, and I covered this in the last webinar, but I get so many good pieces of feedback on this. If you do have a sales team, a very simple process you can do is this. Pull 3 of them in a room, pull 5 of them in a room separately, and ask them to give you their pitch. Just say, hey, I'm interested. If you're in B2B where your sales reps have to go out and create appointments, say, hey, let's just say you just created an appointment with me. Sit down, give me your pitch. You'll be surprised at what you hear. Now, if you're like a top 3%, 2% company, you're going to get a pretty consistent, highly persuasive, highly consultative presentation given to you. If you're like 90-some-odd% of most companies, it's probably going to be all over the board. So here's what you should be looking for. Do they have rapport building skills? Now remember, rapport by itself it's a strategy. Very few companies teach how to be likable. Good old Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people. There are specific techniques to building rapport, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in person. And it's not all the obvious things. It's the things that they don't teach in school. So do you have people that are excellent at building rapport? When it comes down to it, when you're exactly like a competitor, say you're selling the same products as somebody else down the road, people will always err to the person, to buy from the person they like the best. Yet very few companies teach the skill of building rapport. Secondly, do they have a set of very specific questions they ask within their process? And are they in order? Not willy-nilly ask a few questions, get out there and present, but do they have specific questions in a specific order that leads to a highly effective presentation of what makes you different, what makes you unique, and why you could be the best service provider or product provider for that client or that prospect. Other elements in your quick start, are they able to elaborate on relevant stories of some of your best clients? These are called case studies. Who has used your firm, used your company, worked with you, and gotten the results that they were looking for? Have you mapped these out? Are they on your website? They're called testimonials or case studies. If you haven't done this, it's a must. Does your sales rep have a well-planned presentation that focuses on value? Do they ask for the sale? Are they able to handle objections? That's another big one. Price objection, competitor objection, I need to think about it, right? We all hear that. Are they well-trained to handle that? And if they're not, I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, it is sheer profit that's falling out the window. All of this can be solved with laying your process out and managing to that process. All right, number 3, I told you I had to cover this stuff quick. Hopefully you're keeping up. Got to create your marketing strategy, right? Now, great organizations know that marketing is not an element by itself. Sales is not an element by itself. Great organizations have an integrated sales and marketing process. The left hand knows what the right hand's doing. When they execute together, you show up much bigger than what you really are if you're a small, mid-sized company. Now, the real key to creating one of the most effective marketing strategies is understanding this concept of the best buyer. Every organization I go into, and I'm usually with the larger companies, obviously, but I want to know who their best buyer is. In many cases, they have sales reps out in the field that are just going after anybody and everybody. Now, the reality is you only have a certain amount of time to prospect. You only have a certain amount of messages you can get out in the marketplace. What Chet always taught is this one concept is what doubled the sales of more companies than any concept that he taught. And this was knowing this. There's always a smaller number of best buyers who can buy a heck of a lot more of your products and services. I mean, if you just look at your existing database of clients, it'll tell you exactly who it is you should be targeting. So, as I said, this is a single concept that have doubled more companies than any concepts, and great companies, large or small, always start here. So how do you do that? Well, first thing we will always do is we'll look at your existing list of clients, and we start to categorize your existing list of clients. Very simple methodology is your A, that's your large whale clients, and in many companies, there's a fewer number of businesses or clients that produce a much higher percentage of revenue. You all heard of the old Pareto principle, 20% of effort creates 80% of the results. In many companies, this is the same thing with their best buyers. Yet their marketing messages, their strategies, their calls, who they're going after is anybody and everybody. So if we look at it just strictly saying we want to have a concerted effort going after the big ones in our marketplace. So you can categorize your clients and understand what are the similarities of your A-level clients. So some examples could be it's their annual revenue or their size. It could be the geography they're in. It could be their profitability. It could be their purchasing power in whatever your market is. It could be corporate initiatives they have if you're working only with growth companies or companies that are growing in a certain geography that are above, let's say, $2 million in revenue. The more isolated you get in creating your best buyers, the more you can use the same budget to go after those best buyers again and again and again. And while the bigger companies, if your best buyers are bigger companies, they're always harder to get to, but you know as well as I do, it's always so worth it. Those are the game changers in your business. Now, when you do this, once you decide on your best buyers, what I want to encourage you to do is grab your team and do the following workshop. Grab your sales reps, your sales managers, your advisors, your marketing team, and ask a few simple questions. And where this came from was, my background of being with Gateway Computers for 12 years and being able to be fortunate enough to be part of that company as we went from a little firm in the middle of a cornfield in South Dakota to an $11 billion company over the course of 12 years. We had the benefit of having some of the biggest ad agencies and marketing agencies and firms coming in to consult us, and I'd sit through those meetings. And at the end of the day, we go through 3 days of workshops. I could boil it down into a couple-hour workshop, because here's the key questions for you to ask yourself. And when you workshop this, you get the ideas and the involvement of other people within your organization. That's where the best ideas come from. But number one is asking yourself this: what makes you different? And once you answer that question, you go to the second one, which says, what difference does that difference make? In other words, if you're out selling your widgets exactly like everybody else, you are going to get wilted into a price war. The internet is the great equalizer. If you're not emanating what makes you different, and that could be your case studies, your testimonials, your happy clients, all of the awards you've won, what you do in terms of servicing people, how you save them time, how you save them money, how you help them be more profitable or more successful or more healthy, whatever it is that makes your situation unique. Because the better you're able to emanate that, the more you'll stand out. So what does that really mean to your clients? Here's another one. Where can we show up as experts in the marketplace? Now, your brain right now should be going, well, we could probably do that on our website, in our collateral, in our sales conversations, in our phone conversations, in our brochures, if we do any webinars similar to what we're doing here. So if you really thought about this to say, I want to show up as the thought leader in my marketplace, and you committed to that, then you'll do whatever it takes to go out and find the resources. Number 4 is this one. I love this. What problems do we solve for our clients? Here's why. In sales, we teach, great salespeople are great at discovering gaps. Either somebody is having a problem and they want it fixed, or somebody has a situation right now that they want to make better. That's all there is to it. That's the only reason we buy something. So if we really understand the problems we solve, and we teach our sales reps how to uncover those problems, not pitch and pitch and pitch, but we teach them how to truly, through questions, through building rapport, through having expert knowledge about the marketplace, to truly understand the issues and problems your clients are facing, they will have much more success in the selling process. And the last one is this: what are our prospects' biggest fears? What are they worried about? Now, why this is important is because these usually show up in the form of objections. So if we understand in advance, knowing that if we understand the patterns, we're going to be much more successful, what the fears of our prospects are, and we're able to squash those fears. That could be in process charts. That could be in showing case studies and testimonials of your happy clients. That could be in having video interviews or testimonials on your website. If that could be emanating the awards or your Better Business Bureau ranking, whatever it may be, the more time you think to think this through, the better off you're going to be able to market. Now, here's why, and I have this great picture of Chet, because that's kind of Chet looking back at an audience going, oh my gosh, I'm going to show you how to fix this. That's what I thought of when I saw this picture. Here's what it says. The research shows 65% of all B2B customers are not engaged with the companies they do business with. What does that really mean? Well, the worst part says this: 86% of business-to-business clients do not see suppliers as unique. That means they're pushing people into this vendor conversation, which you don't want to be in, because that's always about price. And as my bullets say, this creates a price-sensitive, commoditized buying process, and we have to be, not just at our sales rep level, at our marketing level, able to communicate our unique benefits, because that is what helps you get around the price conversation. Now, understanding that it is a different conversation to talk about money, which is justifying your value, justifying what your pricing is, showing them how many other people spend more money with your firm because of all the other benefits they get outside of the widget. Could be service, could be your warranty, could be your follow-up, could be everything else you do. If your people can't explain that, you're losing sales. So people mistake the price conversation, which is saying, purchasing person saying, well, you're just like them, whoever gives me the lowest price wins, right? That's a tactical conversation versus a money conversation, which is usually higher in the influence and authority network, more at VP, director, C level, where you're going to come in as a partner. That requires rigorous planning and rigorous training to execute. But the real key is this: stop selling, start educating. So despite the consensus on the effectiveness of websites and marketing, surprisingly few have education-based content on their website. This is saying a third. Now, in almost every case when I talk to a CEO or a business leader, and we're going to talk about consulting or a coaching opportunity, I said, let me go to your website. In almost every single case, and if I asked you, you tell me if you answer this way, they say, well, we're in the process of changing that, or we're not happy with our website, or it's going to be fixed very soon. happened so many times. I'm like, okay, guys, let's get this right. Education-based marketing is what is causing companies to stand out because your buyers want more content to help them make decisions. And a study found that 72% of customers do online research before talking to you, making that phone call, coming into your store, coming into your place of business, allowing a sales rep to come in. And the question is where do your prospects get their information, and who is it in your marketplace that's really doing the educating? And are you showing up as that educational thought leader? I mean, that's the preeminence of what our firm teaches, how to dominate markets. Now, if you want to just go to it, get a free consult on this, Empire Research Group is the firm we work with that does all of our market research. They do all of these, some of these presentations you're seeing here. But know that market data always crushes product data. You want to get an appointment at a high level, you're not going to walk in there with a spec sheet and go through your prices. The executives don't want to have that conversation. Decision makers don't want to have that conversation. They push that to purchasing. They want to talk to somebody that's going to educate them on what's happening in the marketplace. What should they be doing to maximize their profit, to maximize their revenue? That's an entirely different conversation. So if you want to learn more about that, go to empireresearchgroup.com. I was asked this on the last call, and I just wanted to make sure everybody gets this, and they'll give you a free consultation on education-based marketing and what they might be able to do to help you become the thought leader in your marketplace. Now, the key is this. There's no shortage of online content, but does the client trust yours? I love seeing this because here's what it says. Many buyers said they're overwhelmed by the amount of content that's coming their way, and today customers are more concerned about trustworthy content that focuses on hard data and demonstrable value rather than sales messages. So if you look at what the popularity of content formats are, white papers. What is that? That's an education-based learning tool. One of the easiest, most inexpensive ways you can stand out by creating white papers around the problems that you solve or the problems that your buyers typically have or your prospects will have. Webinars, case studies, very similar to what we're doing here because not all content is valued equally. So in terms of overall value, the three biggest things to focus on based on research from the B2B Buyer Demand Gen 2013, all the sources are cited down here. White papers, webinars, case studies. If you want to stand out. And by the way, outside of the cost of creating these, white papers you can use 1,000,000 times. You can pay for the paper to print them out, or you can send them electronically. Webinars, very inexpensive. Case studies, very inexpensive. You just got to have them created. So you can trial and error it by yourself or hire a firm that does this. So if you want to do that, reach out to one of our coaches and they'll help you with this. So our marketing checklist. Do you have a defined marketing plan? Are you looked at as the expert in your marketplace? Is your website and content education or product-based? And have you gone through the map of what makes us different, what difference does our different make, what problems do we solve, what are our buyers' biggest fears? All right, step number 4. You've got to design your step-by-step sales process. But you may come back and say, but Gene, it's different every time. Here's what I'd say is it's a very simple process. Every company has a process that can be followed. You start with model sharing. Look at your sales reps that are achieving consistently higher performance every single month and study the steps of the sequence. I mean, there's a prospecting sequence. There's a getting a first appointment sequence. It's how you handle that first appointment sequence. What the first appointment leads to in the second sequence, the third sequence. Maybe the second meeting is you have to come in and do a mini audit. You got to understand the details of their business, or you got to review something. The third step is you're going to put together a proposal. Whatever it is, define it, and that way you can begin to map out, not only train to the sales process, but map out your process or map out your progress, because then you can put measurements around it. And if you can't measure it, obviously you can't manage it. If you can't manage it, you can't optimize for performance. So why I'm such a stickler on this is so few companies have it mapped out. And I'm not talking about all the way down to the script. That's important too, but just the process, the sequence, and the flow so you know how to track where your deals are. So 68% of B2B small businesses and medium business say their #1 challenge is to attract new customers. Wow, that's a big breakthrough, Gene. Whose is it? We all want to do that. So when you look at what the goals are, I'm guessing these are yours too. We want to get more leads. We want to reach more of our target audience. That's called our best buyer. And you're not going to do that by accident, ladies and gentlemen. You want to elevate your brand online. Why? 72% of people are looking online before they even come to you. So it takes a heck of a lot more work today to make a sale. This is why you've got to expertly plan this out. This says that at least 66% of the time it takes more than 4 contacts by a sales rep. And you know how most sales reps are, if they make 1 or 2, they don't come back for another month or 2. But 31% of the time it takes 8 or more contacts. Do you have those contacts laid out? Do your reps say the same thing again and again and again, step 1 through 8? Do they have materials to send out to get to that best buyer, that appointment with the decision maker? In most situations, that's not the case. So 59% of companies say the lack of budget and resources is an obstacle. 39% are struggling to reach the right target at the right time because they haven't identified that usually. So 63% say there's at least 2 decision makers or more for every deal. I'm guessing that's the same for you. 43% report the typical sales cycle has increased in the past 3 years. Why? There's more options, of course. 34% say poor infrastructure is hurting their sales cycle. 22% lack the understanding of metrics needed at each buying stage. So as I give you the content, the same things that we're teaching companies, it's all backed up by the research, independent research. Hopefully this is hitting home for all of you. Let's move to the next one. We've got to track and publicize your results. Now, there's 2 situations usually that I walk into with companies. Either number 1, they don't have a measurement system right now. Their measurement system is looking at their revenue at the end of the month and either celebrating or, dropping the bomb on their sales force, whatever. You know what I mean by that. They either have no measurement system or they're measuring so much. They measure everything, and it's so much that people can't digest the data. It doesn't become usable. So a very simple format to follow is this. What are the core metrics? And I call this the core 4. Now, it might be 5, it might be 6, but you get the point if I use the word core 4. What are those core metrics that are going to have the most value in tracking? So I want to introduce you to something a tool that we create. It's called the Core 4 Sales Tracker. So create your list of your most valuable core sales metrics. Now here's some examples of what you could look at. Like I said, you can't have 20 on here because people won't pay attention. But what I've got on the left-hand side, if you can see this on your screen, this is a live Core 4 tracking spreadsheet that we built for one of our clients. And in this case, they were tracking everything from what's called their gross profit to something called package growth. It's a special metric they want to track. Focused industry growth. There's a specific set of products and services they wanted to grow. Number of call summaries. It was something they were driving with the new CRM, so they wanted to have attention to tracking who was doing the call summaries and who wasn't, so they get ingrained to use their new CRM. And number of new clients, active accounts. So there's 5 measurements on there that we went to work religiously. We looked at every single week. Now, here's the key for you. You can look at it for revenue, profit per sale, margin, average sales price, length of contract, new accounts. My point is boil it down to 4 or 5 that you look at. And you have to know that what you focus on and track will drive what your sales team focuses on. So I like to measure these results, put them into a simple-to-use spreadsheet, something you can communicate to the group, you can hang on the wall, and then you take it to another level. Here's your keys to successful tracking. Number 1, you've got to remain consistent in tracking your results. Daily, bi-weekly, weekly, whatever. If you can do it daily, all the better. Making sure people know where they stand versus their goal or how they rank versus their peers. Number 2, you want to publicize your data to your sales management and leadership staff. Make sure everybody sees it. Number 3, here is the biggest one. If your figures are confidential, you don't want to show your revenue dollars or your profit dollars, totally get that. Then all you do is each individual person on the team has a goal, and all you publicize is their percentage attainment to goal. So you don't have to show your private numbers, but we do want to show the sales reps how they stack up versus the other ones. And the last one, and this is most important, stack rank like crazy. And what I mean by that is if you can create a level playing field, if you got 5 reps or 300 reps, where you're measuring them all consistently, and you're able to show who your top 2, 3, 4, 5 reps are, who your middle of the packers are, and who your bottom ones are, you create an intrinsic competitive, healthily competitive environment. And that's how you put reward mechanisms. That's how you put spiffs and bonuses in place. And one of the mistakes I see with companies is they'll just assess and measure their salespeople based on overall productivity. I understand why they do that. However, if you're in a situation where you're creating leads for them, say you're on an inbound call center situation, and all you're seeing is people, what you'll begin to see is people do what's called cherry picking. They just burn through the leads looking for those that want to buy. If that's you and you're the owner, it's costing you a ton of money. So you may want to start assessing people on revenue, margin, closing percentage, appointment percentage, whatever that may be, new business. But the more you stack rank, the more you publicize, the more you reward and recognize your top performers, the more you create that culture of performance within your business. Again, it's another situation we can show you as consultants if you're a larger company. Our coaches will show you if you're a smaller company. If you don't have the time to do this or the expertise to do it, go hire a pro that does this every single day. Number 6, and I can only spend a few minutes on this, but it goes without saying, you've got to have the right players on the bus and the wrong players off the bus. This comes down to your performance management standards, the accountability you give people. If you're not measuring people the right way today, how do you manage them up or manage them out, your low performers? But more importantly, the best companies in the world have the strongest people, and then they plug them into the well-thought-through process. And the key here is that hiring is not something we do when we lose people or when we're only in growth mode. We're always looking for great talent. That's what I encourage companies. You're always hiring. Why? You never know when that diamond is going to show up, that person that's the young you, the young supercharged, energized performer that's looking for an opportunity, or it's that person that left the company that wasn't treating them right. You never know where those people are. And here's the key, everybody. If you're stack ranking your employees, and you're going to quickly understand by using this process who are your lower performers, and if they're not hitting certain standards for a month, 2 months in, then you got to manage them up or manage them out. You got to make those hard decisions. And sometimes I've had companies tell me, it's like, look, it's better to have a body in that territory than nobody at all. And I said, look, your issue is not that person. The issue is you. You don't have a hiring pipeline in place. So then you can become at the mercy of middle performers, and you can't understand why your revenue is not where it is. So sometimes we've got to give those wake-up calls as consultants. So having a well-thought-through hiring process is critical. And in this case, this could be its own webinar, and we'll be doing it throughout the course of the year on proprietary methods that Chet Holmes International teaches, which are just fantastic. Everything from writing the ad to what you say in that first interview, how you use behavioral profiles, how you use behavioral-based questions. Really make it difficult for people to get in so they appreciate the opportunity. And most importantly, as I said, must number 7, and this probably should be number 1, and I know I've said everything is important. This is the most important of what changes businesses large and small. Is creating and executing mastery-level skill training. So designing your sales process is the first step. That's great, and I would recommend having that expertly done. But executing and measuring is where success lives. Now, we've got to be able to teach people how to do it. So this one-time tribal training simply doesn't work, meaning if I examined your new hire process, would it be like typical companies? They're going to get a little bit of product training. They're going to get some operations, CRM, pricing training. You're going to set them down or have them travel with one of your reps. Hopefully they pick up, quote-unquote, how to do the job, and then you put them out in the field and say, go get them. Here's your list. Start selling, or start taking the calls, or start setting appointments. This training simply does not work, ladies and gentlemen, unless you have an extremely talented person that comes in, and those are fewer and farther between than what we think. So you've got to have a system you put them into, a sales mastery playbook, your ideal buyer strategy playbook. I gave some real-life client examples here. Knowing that repetition is the mother of learning, and practice does not make perfect. What you practice makes permanent. I was just on with a client. We were talking about sales training, and it was a guy that's a senior manager within the organization. He goes, yeah, we do sales training. I said, really, how often does it happen? He goes, well, we had a guy out here about 1.5 years ago, and quite frankly, I couldn't even tell you his name. I said, can you tell me what you learned? And he goes, well, I guess not. And I said, you know what, here's the deal. Immersion training is great. The problem with immersion training is that most people, if you don't have something going again and again afterwards, like every week, a half hour to an hour of something around the skill set of selling, the skills will go away. It's like a muscle. If you don't work it out, it will turn to apathy. Now, new salespeople, along with veterans, they're so critical to train. And here's what the research shows. 82% of companies aren't satisfied with how long it takes their new salespeople to get up to speed. Can't imagine that. Research shows it takes new salespeople from 8 months to over 1 year to perform at the same level as their tenured colleagues. Now, can you imagine if you had your process defined, your best buyers defined, marketing messages helping you create top-of-mind awareness, your sales reps were trained on how to make that call or take that call, how to build rapport, how to ask questions. I mean, just in hearing what I'm saying, you've got to be nodding your head saying, heck yes. And that's all profit. That's the point. You know, sales and persuasion is the most profitable skill set any company or any individual can learn. So it takes longer for sales reps to get up to speed. Why? Because sales training of most organizations is weak or non-existent. And most employers devote less than 2 months to onboarding their new sellers. So better training equals significantly better results. Salespeople working for employers with great onboarding processes, all of you should have, got up to speed 34% faster, i.e. 4 months earlier than those who were working for companies who were less satisfied with their onboarding process. This is research. Executives reporting the greatest satisfaction and success with their onboarding programs have longer onboarding periods that are highly structured and comprehensive. Now, you may be thinking, you know, Gene, I'm a smaller company. I'm $5 million, $10 million bucks. We don't have a big training program, and I don't have, you know, organizational designers and so forth. I totally get that. But it doesn't mean, remember what I said earlier, that you can't act like a big company with the resources that you've got. Because this is so important today. Here's why. Number one, as I said earlier, you are designed to get the results that you're getting today. This follows the methodology, the process methodology of guys like Deming, Peter Drucker, and Six Sigma. Very few people do this in the sales and marketing process. If you want more sales and you want more profit, then it's identifying, auditing, building mastery in your sales and marketing process. Why? Because selling is 90% process and 10% magic, right? I pity, you know, I'm always envious of the guy that shows up in the right place at the right time and gets the big order. When you know as well as I do, it's the steady eddies that follow the process, that do the consistent things over and over again, that manage their time and their schedules well. Those are the ones that produce the most results. And they're the ones that are constantly dissatisfied and wanting more. Does that sound familiar? If you're on this call, it's probably you. We know that luck is temporary, that discipline to the process, marketing, sales, hiring, metrics, is where excellence lives. That's what all great companies do, and you can too, regardless of what size you are. When you study the patterns of the best companies in the world, that's what we do. So our firm works with business owners, large and small, day in and day out. That's all we do. Market, selling, management, education-based marketing, core story involvement. That is what our firm does. That's why we're as the size that we are, because we provide tremendous value. And because we've done this for so long, we're able to look at your situation and say, hey, here's what you can be doing to increase those results. And then we go to work on modeling, the repetition, and PDR, which stands for practicing, drilling, and rehearsing, to create mastery in your organization, as I said, which all of you can do when you make the decision. So the key is this. Based on what I'm saying right now, are you leaving clients and profits on the table? And if you're like most organizations, you're saying yes. The major factor missing from most companies, I firmly believe, if you've studied my work, look at my YouTube stuff, you'll see that such a stickler on sales process and sales training, because it's so profitable for you, is they have really weak sales process. Product training, get appointments, close, and that's all they focus on. We know that solution selling is what's most important. And that starts with how they are prepared mentally, goal setting, time management, how they get themselves switched on every day. Are they prepared to handle objections, to open the call, to ask the right questions? Right? That's the most preeminent factor, yet very few organizations teach it. We want them to be masters at building rapport, masters at asking the right questions in the right order, then presenting your products and services, not just based on a feature dump, but being able to tell your story, emanate the case studies of successful companies or businesses or people that have worked with you, using benefits, using the right language patterns. That's how your salespeople stand out. And when they do that, closing becomes the easiest piece. That's why I have it at the bottom of the pyramid. Nobody wants to be closed. It's not going to be any slick, hard pressure lines that's going to cause people to buy. Now, there may be objections you've got to be prepared for. You've got to have a follow-up program that includes non-buyers and those that did buy, having a referral strategy. So I covered this quick, but intuitively, I think you all get this, that, man, if we look at this and say, I apply these patterns to my company, and I'll review them really quick right here. Step number 1 in the 7 musts, you got to get clear on where you want to go, where you are now by having an audit, and what your plan is to get there. If you're struggling with that, Call one of our coaches. If you're a bigger company, call a consultant. Get a consultation and understand if we can do that for you, if we would match up. Number 2, define your best buyers and create your marketing message. Follow the questions. That's the easiest way to do that. Number 3 is integrate your marketing approach with a well-defined and managed sales process. Remember, sales and marketing works as one. 4, track and measure results. Be relentless. Number 5, create your culture of high performance by getting your right players on the bus and the wrong ones off. And you all know who I'm talking about on your team, that maybe they're bad attitudes, maybe they're not. They're the ones that are first to criticize process, procedure, that your company's not perfect. Those people in the organization kill your organization. And lastly, create strength in your sales engine through continuous skill development and skill training, sales training. And that's the resource that I want to give you right now. And when I say give you, it's 100% the Ultimate Sales Mastery System. So in working with hundreds of clients, both large and small, here's what we know to be true. You have more competition than ever before. The internet has created the great equalizer from a price, quality, and service standpoint. They just look you up. How you market and sell will make all the difference in the world. And if you want rock star results, investing in your sales team is a must. It is an absolute must. Look at the best companies. That's exactly what it is they do. So let's focus on sales training for a moment. You know, this 1 to 2 times per year doesn't cut it. Or if you're practicing, you know, having them read a book or practicing old stuff, not going to help you whatsoever. Great companies today have a sales strengthening program that gives world-class and relevant training, testing to assure comprehension. In other words, you do the training. Can you imagine giving people a test to make sure that they actually comprehended it? Very difficult to do. And in 15, 20 years of training people on sales, the hardest thing I had was, did they really get it and can they apply it? Now with technology that I'm going to show you, you can give them the lesson on video virtually, and they take a test right afterwards on the computer to assure they have comprehension. Then you want to have tracking and measurement so you can see who's doing the training and who's not doing the training. So in the days of DVD programs or having people read a book, you never knew if they were actually doing it, let alone using it out in the field or on the phones. So the key is as we built this system, I was looking for that one tool that said, let's put all the most relevant, best content on it. Let's make it easy and digestible for people to watch, meaning they're videos of 3 to 6 minutes. We know people can't sit in one setting for more than an hour these days, so they're short, quick hits, very synchronized content that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via the internet. So is this what you're looking for? A better trained, higher performing sales team? You should be nodding your head. A consistent, highly effective sales process that bolsters your new client conversions? Should be nodding your head. Happier and more well-disciplined salespeople? Hopefully you're nodding your head. An assurance that you have a powerful results-based sales process that maximizes conversions, your average sales prices, creating repeat business or longer contracts, whatever those core 4 KPIs are in your firm. Or do you want more of the same? Just look at what the research says, which many companies are saying, no process, no consistency. That's in their hiring process, their sales training, keeping their best reps, high turnover. I mean, it's a costly situation if you're the business owner. So as I said in the beginning, we want to give you a tool that can help you right now, and we're going to give you access to the Ultimate Sales Mastery System, theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com. And this is easily access to mastery-level sales training. And this is a trial. And as I said, there's no credit card you have to put down. Literally, you can get access to the content, see how the system works. And if you're like many companies, you're going to see the system and say, I want to learn how to launch this into my sales team, because it's incredibly inexpensive for the value it is that you get. So not only do you get access to world-class relevant sales training, the basics, mindset, rapport, questions, handling presenting, closing, handling objections, building your referral engine. This thing pays for itself so fast if you decide to do something after the trial. But it also tracks your team's learning with dashboard reports. It helps you grow sales initiatives with minimal investment, measures accountability for increasing revenue, so you know who's on the system, who's off the system, who took the test, who didn't take the test, who passed the test. Fantastic. It's proving already to reduce sales cycles and improving your overall client relations. And at the end of the day, it focuses on growth, along with not just the fundamentals of the selling process. So the Ultimate Sales Mastery System, theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com. Go take a test drive of the system. And we're doing this for a limited time. Eventually, all we will do is sell this system on calls. But what I'm finding is many of you who take this trial at theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com, you get a chance to get your own exposure to it, have a couple of your reps get on it, have your managers get on it, and you start to think about, what could this tool do for us at just an hour a week? Having your reps log in on their break, before their shift, at home, on their iPad, wherever, and having them go through constant skill lessons on sales process, on influence, persuasion, language patterns, rapport skills, mindset and preparation. That's what it's all about. So we want you to test drive it. It's all that there's no obligation to it. So you're also going to have a success advisor to walk you and your managers through the system. So if you get on, then you're going to have somebody call you to say, look, let me show you how to set it up. We'll get you your login ID, and you can go knock yourself out for 14 days and just use the free training. What I do know is that some of you are going to see this training, and you're going to get value out of it. It's going to be great for our brand. But I do know that some of you are going to see this and say, oh, my gosh, I got to get this in the hand of my 10 reps, my 20 reps, my 100 reps. So that's why we give it away. Those of you that get it, those of you that see the value in ongoing spaced repetition coaching at high levels for very minimal investment, you're going to take advantage and move to the next step. That's how it always works. So your free trial, theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com. Remember the word "the" in front of it, theultimatesalesmasterysystem.com. Don't forget to put the word "the" in it. You have everything to gain, nothing to lose. It truly is a free trial. And I want you to get in there and test drive it and beat it up. And when you talk to your success advisor, get feedback. You love it, you don't love it. I tell you right now, everybody who's gotten on it has been blown away. Why? Because there's no other system out there like this. There's no system that has this level of technology, that level of content, available 24 hours a day for a minimal investment per rep. I mean, we're talking less than $50 per person on your team. You spend more than that on a group lunch. So if you really boil it down to say, I want to create more profitability in my business, work on the skill sets, work on the 7 musts, with the most important one being commit to the training of your reps, the skill set of your people. It's the most profitable thing you can do. Danielle, I know we've got a couple questions here, so why don't you let me have one of those? We're a little bit over, but I got a little passion. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a few minutes left, and if I just want to let everybody know, so I put a couple things up in the chat box. We are offering a free coaching session to businesses on the call today that are $5 million or more in revenue. So the link to that is info.chetholmes.com/webinar-free coaching session. That whole link is in the chat box. Just want to let you know. And then also, if you have any additional questions or you wanted to talk to someone, you can reach us at clientservices@chetholmes.com. So that's also in the chat box. So let's get a couple of questions going here. So Raymond had asked during his registration, how do I develop and implement a cost-effective marketing plan in the financial services business to generate consistent flow of qualified client leads?
Wow, hopefully, Raymond, you got the basics out of this. Is number one is where can you show up as the educational thought leader in your, let's say it's in your city. I know with my broker, I get a newsletter once a month. Now he works for a big firm, Edward Jones, so that's generated for him. But that's a firm that is excellent at education-based marketing, and it's something new every single month that's not trying to sell me something, that's teaching me something. So in your business, it's the same thing. How can you get out and teach people, whether maybe it's retirement, maybe it's IRAs, maybe it's how to start that college fund. But start with saying, okay, who are your best buyers? Who are your ideal clients? What are the issues, problems, and challenges that they're facing? And then how can you either create content through local speaking engagements, through newsletters or short little PDFs that you write. Blogging on your website is another big one. But step up and be the educational leader. That's, nobody wants to work with a financial planner that's trying to sell them something, but they will work with somebody they like, they trust, they respect, and somebody that's teaching them. Do the same thing.
Yep, absolutely. Next question is from Renee. She asked, what can I do to start increasing sales immediately without spending a lot? I think a lot of people need to know that.
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. First thing I would say is if you look at the 7, what we've laid out here, it's really not that dissimilar. My answer would be the same. Are you clear with what it is you want to do? Have you put a plan in place? If you haven't identified your best buyers, then identify who those people are and figure out a program that allows you to get to them and build some level of awareness. So if it's just you, then you've got to figure out where do these people, what's the center point of where these people are. And some of it could be going to your existing clients and firming up that you've done a great job for them and asking for referrals. Another one could be local speaking engagements, very inexpensive, chambers, clubs, and so forth. But I keep going back to very inexpensive to build a website today. Very inexpensive to put a blog on those websites, to write content that's going to be valuable to your ideal buyer. If you think about the issues and challenges that face your marketplace or face a prospect, and you figure out what is it that you do to solve those problems, that becomes the main messaging of your blogs, at least my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. That education-based marketing, creating great content, that always works. Terry asked, what does it take to find the right people and then keep them motivated to press forward to succeed? How to make someone into the sales machine everyone thinks they can become? How to become someone who thinks they cannot sell anything?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, what's this gentleman's first name?
Terry.
Terry. Okay. Listen, that all starts with you as the leader. The speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. So your messaging, how well you articulate that to your sales force is a #1 priority. If you're in growth mode, declare you're in growth mode. Lay the numbers out. Set the bogeys out there. Build your comp structures around that. Secondly, from a top grading standpoint, you got to understand who your players are that you want to keep on the bus. And if you have some that are pulling you down, get your hiring process going and start either moving them up or moving them out. What great leaders do is they create a culture of performance, of minimal acceptable standards, whatever that may be for you. And that way, if you're going to have any type of performance management situation, it becomes more black and white versus subjective. You want it always to be objective. Here's the criteria. Here's what you need to do to work here. And here's what's going to happen positively for you when you do. Secondly, you want to create that killer instinct. You've got to have sales meetings every week. I mean, if you see the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, he had a sales meeting every single day to get his reps charged up and energized. And every meeting he did, sales training. Just happened to watch the movie this weekend, and I'm like, that's part of what we teach. Now, they did some illegal things, but the premise of how they built their force, they had a driving force leader. They laid out their sales process and their sales script to a T. They trained people daily, every single day. They were inspired and motivated. They managed the weak ones out, and they only let the best ones in. I know that seemed like a lot, but that's really what it boils down to.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gene. I think that's the last question we have time for today. Please don't forget to take advantage of Gene's offer for that free 14-day trial. And again, we have the free coaching session link up in the chat box. Thank you all so much for attending. We hope you learned some valuable new information to get your sales teams on the path to success. Keep an eye out for your personal invite to future webinars, and we're always looking for topics that are of interest to you. We're here to help you, so please submit your ideas for future webinar topics to marketing@chetholmes.com. We'll look through those and hopefully get those going for you as well. Remember to contact Chet Holmes International anytime you need help to grow your business faster, smarter, and better. Find us online at chetholmes.com. We have an active social media community. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Danielle.